Hey, if you're watching this, you're wondering if you should start your tech career at a big company like Microsoft, Google, Facebook, Amazon, or a small, scrappy startup. I'm here to tell you the differences so that you can make the best decision for your career. So first, let's talk about the differences between startups and big companies. When you're at a startup, you're trying to find what's called product market fit. This means that you may not be working on exactly the right product, you may not have exactly the right customer base, but you're trying to figure that out as quickly as you can so that the company can grow. And this growth phase is called finding traction, right? So startups are all about moving quickly to get traction on some particular product that they're working on as quickly as possible before the money runs out, ideally. Now, big companies don't have this problem. Big companies have already found traction on one or maybe multiple large products, and their challenges is more about maintaining and growing those existing successful products, and typically they have far more people and well-established processes to do that. So here I'm going to break down three major differences and let you decide what you prefer. The first is culture. At a small startup, the culture is going to be one where you have to figure out as quickly as possible how to get the right product market fit. And what this means is that you will have to be very, very adaptable to rapid changes in direction. It also means that you'll have an opportunity to do what's called wearing multiple hats. Because at a small company, there are not that many people, and you may need to take on multiple parts of the code base, learn a new technology, maybe even help out the PM or design teams if the company's really, really small. So at a big company, you'll have very well-established roles and responsibilities, as well-established processes. So this means that if you're in part of an engineering team, you're probably going to be fairly specialized into one specific part of the code base and expected to become an expert in maintaining and advancing that particular piece of technology. And then when you need help or need to go into another area, there'll maybe be another expert that you can go to ask questions about. For processes, similarly, you won't have to be discovering new tools or new processes. There may even be an entire team within your big company dedicated to producing tools for you to use. Another interesting difference, at small companies, you may not have a very, very clearly defined job ladder, like a way to become a senior engineer, then a principal or staff engineer, and so on and so forth. At big companies, the expectations for every level, as well as the process by which you get promoted, are very, very well documented and very well regimented. Another thing to consider is that at a big company, there's no way that you can know everybody. There may be hundreds to thousands of people around you, all working on different parts of the product. So this can make you feel like you're a small part in a big machine and maybe not feel like you have as much impact as you would if you were at a startup. At a startup, it's certainly possible for you to know everyone, and it's certainly possible for you to have much more of a family feeling with a smaller group of people. Finally, what you learn at a big company versus a small company. You're probably wondering, will you learn faster or slower depending on this choice? And the answer is it depends on what you want to learn. At a big company, you're going to be learning fairly well-established processes tailored to working in large environments where lots of people need to coordinate. So it'll be a little bit more process-oriented, but this is something that you will need to learn eventually as your career advances. At a smaller company, you're learning much more about how to be agile and pivot toward the right customer direction so that you can meet customers' needs as quickly as possible. Because again, at a startup, if you don't figure out how to get that product market fit, the business won't grow. So you must be much more dynamic in a startup environment. All right, number two, and I know this is a big one for a lot of people, salary and compensation. At a startup, you're more likely to be paid a lower salary, but more equity or ownership within the business. And this can be very, very lucrative in the long run, or it can end up being worth nothing. And the hope with a startup is that when you join, your efforts will contribute to the business as a whole growing. And if you're a part owner in that business growing, you will make more money and compensation in the long run. But there's a risk because it's a startup. If you don't find that product market fit, there is a risk that your equity may not be worth anything. And that's the trade-off you have to make. At a big company, you already have product market fit, maybe multiple products, and you're in a fairly well understood, well established business. You're more likely to be paid a higher salary, maybe with a bonus on top of it, and less of an ownership percentage in the business. So if you're seeking more of a predictable income, you would want to go with a big company. And if you're more of a big risk, big rewards type of person, you'll go with a smaller startup company. Finally, I want to talk about what's different when you actually have the job. First is roles and responsibilities. At a startup, you're going to be asked to do many things, wear multiple hats. This means you may in one day be working on back-end technology, next day you might have to go and learn some mobile tech, and then maybe front-end technology after that. With startups, you have to be really, really agile with respect to where you're pitching in on any given day, because there aren't enough people around to cover all the bases. So you've got to be much more generalist and able to pitch in lots of different places. That might even include helping out the product team or the design team or things that really don't have anything to do with engineering. But ultimately, you've got to pitch in and help move the company forward. Now, at a big company, roles and responsibilities will be very well established. There'll be a whole team of product managers with product managers for every part of the product that you could imagine. Similarly for engineering, there'll be a mobile engineering team, a back-end engineering team, probably a whole team doing support just for front-end technologies. There will be experts available for any topic that you could imagine. So you don't have to wear multiple hats, but you do have to learn about how to coordinate amongst all of these people, all of these experts, and potentially all of those competing interests. So it's much, much more at a big company about understanding where the experts are and how to collaborate with them to get your job done. Number 4, processes that will be different once you have the job. At a startup, it's super important, more than anything, to get product market fit. And this means that there won't be a lot of well-established processes because people aren't spending their time documenting what works, etc., because they don't know what works yet. They're trying to figure it out as they go. And this means that one of the things that you'll be asked to do working at a startup is maybe to introduce or play around with or experiment with new processes, new ways of working, new tools, new development methodologies, new ways of understanding the customer. You have the freedom to try a lot of different things at a startup and iterate on those processes very quickly. Now, at a big company, you have a different challenge. You have extremely well-established processes because you already have a product that works. Customers are using it. They expect a certain level of quality. They expect a certain level of support as well. So at a big company, you have to expect that the processes will be very well established and that changing them will take a lot of energy to overcome friction. And the reason for that is not bad. It's because you already have a product that's working. So you must be very, very careful to change what's already working. Which leads me to point number 5, the approaches to innovation at a startup versus a big company. At a startup, it's very straightforward. You have to innovate to survive. Everyone is oriented toward figuring out product market fit and the best way to rapidly meet whatever customer expectations are being asked for so that the business can grow. And everyone will be oriented toward doing that as quickly as possible. Now, at a big company, innovation is much more of a challenge. If you've ever heard of the phrase innovator's dilemma, this is what you'll encounter at a big company because it means you already have well-established businesses and well-established products. So innovation has to be done in a much more careful, restrained, targeted fashion so that you don't break what's already working. So if you're the type of person who wants really, really big risks, really, really big changes, trying to move the needle as far as you can, the best opportunity to do that is going to be at a startup. If you're the kind of person who likes working in an environment with much more predictability, well-established customers and understanding the processes that went into making those customers happy, working at a big company will be something that's more interesting to you. So there you have it, the 5 differences between big companies and startups. If you have different experiences or just want to share, Feel free to interact with me in the comments, or if you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me on Twitter at NickCalled. Subscribe, share, and let's break in.